Hello, and welcome to the second episode of Chicago.mp3, the podcast about the music scene in America's greatest city. I am your host, Rucia Tierra, and today we are speaking with Martin Bandz. Martin Bandz is a singer-songwriter that draws inspiration from artists such as Zach Bryan, The Fray, Leon Bridges, as well as the artists his parents listened to growing up. His most recent single, Radio, has been making waves on TikTok, and last year he released an EP called The Things I Want to Say to You. Those songs are filled with heart and vulnerability, which led to us having a conversation about vulnerability and songwriting. Let's dive right in. Earlier this year, you released Radio. What has the response to that been like?
Pretty good, I would say. It's about to hit 40,000 streams. And yeah, that's just come through me posting it on TikTok and stuff like that. And people have been adding it to playlists. So I think that it's been good. I've been pleased with it. I'm proud of the song. And I think that the people who have heard it seem to enjoy it. So that's all you can ask for.
And you got to debut the song in Windy City Live. So that was exciting, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I'm glad we were able to get that. And it was a huge opportunity for us. And um, yeah, that was the first time that we played it live when the song came out. And it was interesting because the crowd was a little bit older in the studio. And I could see in real time them enjoying the song more as it went on. And I thought that was cool as well.
Yeah, that's some of the older crowd, they can be a little apprehensive to anything new. So it's cool that you got them to come around on you.
Right.
You recorded a behind the scenes vlog of the entire process, and you also documented the process of recording and producing the song. Why was it important to you to capture all of that as well as to share that with the audience?
I just really believed in the song, and I still do. But it was a situation of like when I had written it and when we were going to produce it, I was like, we should probably put some cameras on this just because whatever this song ends up becoming and whatever impact the song ends up having, it'll be cool to show the process of us creating it. Yeah, I mean, all of it kind of came organically, and it's something to look back on that years from now I can go back and have good memories from it and give people a little bit of look at how I do things and how these songs come together and yeah, just give people another look into what I'm doing.
I think it'll be really interesting in a few years for you to look back at that and see like how you've changed as a songwriter or how you go about producing things differently and like just see your growth as an artist. That'll be really interesting as well for your fans that like follow along on the journey.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
When you perform that song for the first time at your release party, do you get anxiety like debuting a song, or does it just by the time you're performing it, do you feel like I've got this down, I'm not worried anymore?
It wasn't until the giant TV camera like swiveled in that I was like, all right, now this is bigger than I thought it was. Because in my head, I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm just playing to these like 50 people in the studio. And then when the camera spun around and I could see myself on the feed, and then I was like, all right, this is, there's no cuts here. Like, so for a second there, and then when the song started, then I was obviously fine because I wrote the song a year ago. So by the time we performed it live, I had already played it in my head and sang it so many times that I was like, there's no reason for me to be nervous about this. But I think the thought of it being live made it slightly more intimidating in the moment at first.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying, but you guys did great, so don't worry.
Thank you.
At your release show, you covered Dreams by Fleetwood Mac. Is Fleetwood Mac like a large influence on your songwriting or your performance? Or is that just like a song that you just happen to really love?
I think it's just a really good song. I like Fleetwood Mac's music in general, but I think that was one of those songs that we've just played together so many times that whenever the crowd wanted another song, I didn't really anticipate that. I think it came out of, I mean, it surprised us, even though that's what happens at shows, that people say encore at the end and then you come out and you play another song, whatever. But it was kind of an in the moment situation. We were like, all right, what's a song that like this crowd is going to enjoy? That we've done so many times that we could do it well just on the fly.
It's good. It's like a little magic trick to have in your back pocket.
Right.
So who would you say has influenced you in your music taste?
I would say out of like the newer-ish folks, I would say like Dominic Fike. I would say Leon Bridges. I don't know. There's so many artists that I really like and that I feel like there's pieces of them that find themselves in my music. And I like a lot of older stuff as well, like Stevie Wonder and like Kool and the Gang, and even like R&B guys like Neo, Usher, So there's just some like amalgamation of all of that. So it's really hard for me to think about who exactly are my main inspirations, but somewhere in that like indie pop slash R&B space.
There is a common thread there that I just heard when you were naming all of those people, is that there's like the thread of really good songwriters. I love Leon Bridges, and I think he's amazing with his ability to like to transform his thoughts into lyrics, which is an underrated skill. It's not always the easiest thing in the world to do. So when you write songs, do you tend to write things when you're feeling them in the moment, or do you like to let time pass and then sort of reflect back and then write about whatever the song's about?
It's usually reflective. I think different songs find me at different times, but they're all about, or at least like inspired and referenced by something that happened in my life. And I feel like certain songs like beg to come out at different times. And I'm able to reference those emotions in that story. Even if I'm past the situation or I'm over it or whatever it is, I can go back and almost pull from what I was feeling in that time to kind of tell this like dramatization of an experience that I had. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know so much if I write in the moment, unless it's a love song, unless it's a song where I'm like, where like a positive love song and there's a muse to it, then maybe whoever the person is that I'm talking to at the moment becomes the muse for the story that I'm telling. But for the most part, the songs have come after situations have ended.
Okay, that makes sense. And so last year you released the Things I Want to Say to You EP, and it had songs like Would It Kill You to Call Me and Will I See You Again? And I was listening to that and it made me think of this Taylor Swift quote once. She says that when she writes songs, it's like she's putting a message in the bottle, and like, maybe the person she wrote it about will hear it one day, maybe they won't. And I'm curious, when you release a song, like you've already produced it, written it, everything, it's time to release it. Do you just put it out there with the hopes that like maybe they'll hear it? Or would you ever like send them and be like, hey, track 3 is about you?
Nah, I would never let them know unless it was like my significant other and it was like a positive song. But when it comes to that, yeah, I mean, Radio is one of those songs too where I wrote it, and when you listen to the lyrics, like you'll see that the whole story ties itself back of like this person is gone, but I hope they'll find their way back because the songs become so big that they hear it on their radio. And so that's one of those times where it's just like throwing it out there, maybe they'll catch it. But a lot of times when I write songs, it's kind of like my closure. So by the time that I put it out, if it is about
Yeah.
somebody, that means that that situation is over. So when I wrote the Things I Want to Say to You, like all of that was a direct message to this person. But the other thing you have to consider sometimes too is like, do they know it's about them when they hear it, or do they think it's about someone from your past? And then how are they feeling about that? And so I think when I put those out, it was just these thoughts that I were just circling in my head, and I just had to put them down because I'm like, this is not healthy for me to just think about this all day. And so that's how all those songs came
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Like you have to get the emotions out of your brain so you can move on and like put
Right.
them on paper. And that makes sense though, because there's obviously like a long process between an event happening, you writing a song about it, you recording the song and releasing the song in the world. So it makes sense that you would be sort of moved on by the time that the song came out. So of all your influences, was there any specific one that led you to pick up guitar specifically, or was it just another instrument that you were just like, this is a tool that I want to use to express things with?
I think I always wanted to play guitar. I think when I was more so like middle school, early high school, when I was finding more rock stuff, I was really inspired by like The Fray, Green Day, groups like that, John Mayer. And I think by the time that I first picked it up, it was 2021. Yeah, I want to say Leon Bridges was one of the artists that I was listening to a lot. Gary Clark Jr. as well, and both of them are really good on guitar. So I think, yeah, I would say those two probably pushed me the most.
Wow, you mentioning the Fray was like the throwback of the century. They were so amazing. They haven't made music in so long, have they?
I don't think so.
Yeah, man. We need to do something about that.
No, seriously.
Anyway, of all the venues you've performed at so far, have you had a favorite around Chicago or the suburbs that you've performed at?
I think I like different venues for different reasons. I really liked a live one in Lincoln Park just because of how the stage was set up and the space in there. It was a little crammed for the band, but it ended up working out. I like HVAC because I spent a lot of time there, like just as like on many nights out. And so I think there's like a nostalgic aspect to that. And then I would say Shuba I like the most only because the sound is awesome and they have like a dedicated sound person. And then the space itself, I think, is great. But we played at this place called Everything Bar, which is like a bagel shop slash bar slash comedy space. And I like that for different reasons because it's it's more intimate. Like we're on the ground level with everybody. So it's kind of like we're all a part of the same energy in a way that being on stage doesn't really give you.
Oh, that's interesting. I feel like that would be scary. Does it make you nervous, like being closer up to people, or do you like that energy?
No, I like being able to like look them directly in their face and like it just gets people to feel to be a little bit more engaged because they're not like looking up at me. It's more so like we're both dancing on the floor. So it's like we're right here with it kind of.
So, as an independent musician, how do you find balance between your life, like your day job and booking shows and practice and that sort of thing?
It's very, very difficult. I think in some ways it holds me back because I don't have like a manager or like a point person that's doing all that stuff. And I'm doing it all on my own and I'm working 40 hours a week and it's very difficult, but it's just the process. It's like it's the journey. I think when I am able to get somebody to take care of all that, I'll be able to really appreciate that even more because I'm trying to do it all myself and seeing how difficult it is and how many moving parts it is. So when someone else is able to take over it, I think I'll be able to, you know, be even more grateful for like the machine.
Yeah, definitely. You won't have to juggle so many things, so to speak. So, how often do you, like, ideally, how often would you be able to perform live?
As in, like, what would I like to be the frequency?
Yes.
Honestly, like, I mean, I would love to go on a tour, honestly. Like, I would love to be performing like every other day, but in a way that's very manageable for me and in a way that I can deliver, the performance that I want to deliver every time. But ideally, I would like to be playing all the time. Yeah, I think that's my answer.
So, if you went on a tour, is there any specific city that you're like, oh, I'd love to play there, like New York or LA? Or would you just be like, I'm happy to play anywhere, anytime?
Yeah, honestly, it'd be anywhere. I like in my head, I envision like obscure places, like, not even, I mean, like places in Europe, like Denmark, or like places I've never been, or like South America, or places in Canada, like places where not only can I play there, but I can walk around and see what life is like there. So it's more so just like almost like vacationing in a way, but getting to see the world. I think that is more so what I am looking forward to when it comes to touring.
Yes, because music is something that very much like connects us all and brings us together. So I think that like the magical part of touring would probably be just being able to see the people that listen to your music and also like connect with them and see like what their lives are like in the cities that they live in and that sort of thing, right?
Right, right.
Do you feel freedom to bounce around between like your R&B influences or your more poppy influences and or that sort of thing?
I feel like with Chicago, historically it's like blues and almost kind of jazzy, but it became over the last like couple decades maybe like rap focus with like Kanye and Common and Lupe Fiasco and all those guys. And like I think I know a lot of people that are in the rap space and stuff like that, and a lot of the people who make it out of Chicago end up being in the rap space. So I'm not sure that I feel pressure to make anything in particular just because of how the internet works and like how my reach can be greater than Chicago.
Right.
Yeah, but I do recognize that like it is a little bit harder just because Chicago just hasn't been known for like pop or like indie pop or like even rock really like that. So yeah, I wouldn't say that I feel pressure, but I noticed that like there is a big melting pot here.
Definitely. And I think a lot of there was some, Chicago Midwest emo bands like Fall Out Boy, for example, that kind of started here, but they didn't stay here for very long.
Right.
So that tends to be the trend of like, they take off and then go to, I don't know, LA or New York or something. I think it's great that we can have a music scene here that like appreciates everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can
So
even
do you have
oh, go
anything?
ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think the city is just full of music lovers in general. Like I could walk by different bars and where there's live music, and you'll hear a bunch of different stuff. There's country bars that do really well here, like more in the Wrigley area, and yeah, so it's cool. It's cool for that purpose. But yeah, everybody does take off, so it's not like we any of those genres stick as the identity of what Chicago is. I think that like because the rappers are still here, I think that is kind of why it ends up taking shape that way.
Absolutely. So what would your going back to the tour, is there anyone, any other artist, local or not, that you would like love to tour with?
I was just listening to Malcolm Todd. I'd probably say like Malcolm Todd. He's been doing really well recently, and he's kind of one of like the newer folks. Dominic Fike, Omar Apollo. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like for me, the stuff that I make is kind of different in a couple different areas. So there's some stuff that sounds more like folk like or borderline country like, and some stuff that sounds more pop like, and some stuff that sounds more R&B like. So in my head, like outside of those people I just named, it's hard for me to think of somebody who like I would open for and it would make a bunch of sense because the music sounds super similar. But it's harder for me to visualize that because I'm making the music, but yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to see yourself from the outside and be like, okay, what makes sense from the other person's point of view?
Right.
Like, yeah, I get what you're saying. So, is there any part of you that ever gets nervous about releasing music that's written about your own life, or do you feel like, do you not feel any sort of fear about people hearing your thoughts, basically?
I feel like only when like the subject of who I'm writing about is like still in proximity to my life and they could recognize that the song is about them. Like there's a song that I wrote recently about someone that I was like kind of seeing. And that's like one of the only times where I'm like, maybe I should like wait to put this out just because like give it some time in between so that like they don't realize that this is about them and maybe like feel a way or two or whatever. So, but otherwise, like I'm already here. Like I've already put out my like most genuine thoughts, like especially with like the things I want to say to you. That EP in particular, I'm like, that was like straight brain to paper to music. And I produced all those songs and put them out. And it was easier for me to like hide behind them because I made them all in my room. So I wasn't like collaborating with anybody. It was just like each of those songs I made like in one sitting. So I was like, all right, I would make the instrumental and then I would write to it and then I would just put it out. So typically I don't feel any anxiety about putting my thoughts out there because I feel like whoever catches it is going to be a part of like my soul tribe in a way because it's just the truth. And I think the music connects a little bit deeper that way just because it comes from a place of me not because I'm not lying. Like you can listen to the music and be like this like this hurt situation hurt this person or like so yeah.
It's truth unfiltered.
Right.
I think that one of the worst things that you can do for music or really any sort of art is to filter yourself too much and like hold back and censor and say, well, I don't want to show this part of myself, you know?
Yeah, but I think that like strength is vulnerability. I think that like the more that you hide behind something or you hide these different parts of yourself because you don't want them to be exploited or exposed, it's like you can't expose somebody who isn't hiding. Like you can't uncover anything that I didn't show you. So it's just like for me, it's much easier for me to stand out in the open
Exactly.
and be like, this is what I'm doing, this is who I am. And whether you resonate with it or not, like this is it. Like this is created independently of however you feel about it. So I make these songs more so as like my therapy and my closure for these situations. So it's like as long as I'm getting that and I'm being honest with that, then like everything else really is doesn't matter. If someone connects, it's a bonus, but that's not the goal.
Yeah. And then I think the audience can tell when things are just aren't truthful and aren't true to the artist. And that's why sometimes you see people like, they might release a song that, and it's not that the song is bad, but it's not, the artist doesn't connect to it. And then the audience picks up on that. But sometimes it doesn't work.
Right. Absolutely.
Do you ever get influenced in your songwriting? Do you ever get influences that like aren't exactly from your life, but you might see like a movie and something like triggers something, and you're like, oh, that could be a good song or something of that nature?
Sometimes when I hear songs, like when I hear a really good song, or it might be an older song, and I'm like, I want to write a song that feels this way. And so, like, for example, Lazy Wings, which is like one of my bigger songs now, that song came from me really getting into Zach Bryan, like maybe a year and a half, two ago. And I was hearing those songs, and I really liked the way that it felt, like with the acoustic and how the chords moved. And so I like basically I was listening to the song Blue by him a lot, and so from that I was more inspired to write Lazy Wings. And so sometimes it'll influence like how I want a song to feel. But like the subject matter, like most of it is I would say all of it. all of it is inspired by my life experience. And so it's harder for me to write about things that didn't happen because it doesn't feel as honest to me. And I think that's an aspect of songwriting that maybe I would like to get into, but also like I'm totally fine with just keeping it the way that I do it. Yeah, I'll be inspired by songs by other people. Yeah, whatever emotion that's evoking and like how warm the song feels or whatever.
So, is your greatest love songwriting, or would you say performing is more interesting to you?
I would say songwriting for sure. I think I've always been a writer. I've like wanted to be an author since I was a kid, and I've been writing since I was maybe like 7, 8 years old. I think it's when was really starting to write my first songs or poems and stuff like that. So I think it's because it always kind of surprises me because when I'm writing and I'm really flowing through it, it's like I almost like black out for a little bit and then I look down at what I wrote and it's directly reflecting the way that I feel in a way that I cannot explain, but I'm more so just like a channel of that emotion through my hands. Seeing it come together is the coolest thing because it's like I didn't know how I was going to verbalize it, but looking back on it, it works so well and it rhymes. And that's like the coolest thing because I didn't plan for it to look this way. Like when I'm writing the song, I'm not like, this is exactly how it's going to look and sound. It's more
Right.
so just like, this is what the song is going to feel like and this is what it's going to be about. But then when it comes out, I'm like, damn, like that's such a perfect way to put how I feel. And then obviously I like exaggerate on certain stuff and make it, feel like a song, when I'm talking about like soulmates and being in love and like all this type of stuff. Maybe I didn't feel that way entirely, but it makes sense for the song. So I would say songwriting.
Okay, and when it comes to performing, what is the best part of that for you?
I think I've always been a performer in general, just in terms of just like trying to make people laugh, trying to make people happy. Like I like getting like seeing people enjoy it, I think it's harder. It's less about just like me, like everybody look at me, like I want y'all's attention for a moment, like whatever it is. It's more so like let's connect through this. Like am I making you guys happy? Like are you guys enjoying this? And I think the best example of that is we were performing at this fraternity in Wisconsin. And as the night went on, like the people got more and more into the songs and like we're all singing it together and the energy is there. And I can visually see that like they're enjoying what's happening here and we're all having a good time. So I think that is like optimal for when it comes to performing. And when you're a smaller artist, people might like the music, but they don't know any of the words yet. So when I'm looking out into the crowd, like people are just standing there. And it's not because they don't like it, but they just don't they're hearing all of this for the first time. And while I appreciate that, I think I look forward to having people know the words and us all be on the same page. Because when we're performing, it's like, I'm feeding you this. And then at the end of the song is when you're like, oh, I got it all. But like ride the whole situation throughout, that is a part of the experience of like what we're all doing here at the same time.
Is there anything that you have coming out the rest of this year that you want to let us know about or give us some hints for?
I'm going to be working on a song this week, actually, and that one I would like to come out in April, but it's all just dependent on when we get everything recorded and mixed and mastered and everything like that. But there is a single that's going to come out, hopefully in April, and then hopefully at some point in the summer, maybe July or August, there's going to be an EP of 5 or so songs. They're all written, so it's just a matter of time. Yeah.
Exciting. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Martin, for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. This was great.
You enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.